The Premier League preview show, the title race is certainly heating up now. It's very close at the top. Even for the top four, are Liverpool going to make a late run? With that being the feature game and the relegation battle, it's probably one of the best we've seen ever in the Premier League. But we're going to get right into this weekend's fixtures on the Premier League preview show. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to another Premier League preview show. The first Premier League preview show in a long time where my club Arsenal aren't sitting pretty at the top of the table. We'll get into it, people. But I hope you're keeping good. I hope you're keeping well. Me, as an Arsenal fan, those of you who are long-time listeners, or if you're new, that you can see right now, has been a hard day. It's been one of the most painful days as a football fan. When thinking and talking about football since the loss to Newcastle last season, I'd say that one hurt really much and that one hurt hard. But starting to dust myself off, and the dust is beginning to settle as well on this, as you know, we've still got a long way to go through the season, of course, but we'll talk about that in much more and in much more detail. But first, you know, as you can see, my co-host right here for the Premier League preview show, Ed, who joined me last night for the watch along as well, helping out. How you doing, my bro?
Yeah, probably better than you, T, to be honest. It was emotional. It was emotional for all of us, I think, last night. It was an interesting game. But of course, your despondency at the end, I think, was felt by a lot of Arsenal fans before, during, and after the match, and after the match in particular, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those ones, and looking back at it now, and you know, we're 24 hours since the game just began. You kind of, and there was so much feeling going into that game. It's a tough one, but we'll talk about it. And you know what? Should we move on into it now, being as we're kind of surrounding the subject? It is the first game of the weekend we're going to be speaking about, and it's the first one of the Premier League weekend as well, which will be upon us in 2 days' time from when we're recording this as well, Villa versus Arsenal. But before we do, actually, let me big up each and every one of you that's watching live in the chat. Big up yourself, Rio Vraj. I hope you're keeping well. For this Premier League preview show, it's not one where we get many callers coming in, but we'll definitely have a call-in show where you'll be able to join them. And my brother, we will get one coming up soon, and then I'll let you know in advance as well. Hope you're keeping good, Peony, as well. And he says, dust off, move on, win the next game, repeat. Exactly that. G Staffy in the building. Hope you're keeping good, G Staffy. Thank you for joining us here. Quick stop as I'm going into the cinema. What you watching? Let us know. And she says, up the borough right there. He won 3-1 against Sheffield United last night, and Cameron Archer and former Arsenal got striker and Chuba Akpom scoring the goals. The double A's up front are definitely doing their job. I tried to think of a battery pun, didn't work, sorry. Big up yourself, Moss, in the building. I hope you're keeping good. Nice seeing you in here as well. I hope you're all keeping well and you are upbeat as well. And the same goes for you, Matt G. Can't stay, just dropping a like. Big up T and Ed. Dust off and we move. Big up yourself, Matt G. Thank you for joining in, and hope, and for anyone as well that's jumping in or watching afterwards, hope you're keeping good. Make sure you get your predictions ready and to put into the comment section at the end of this game, and whilst we're watching live as well, of course, as we got Mr. 200 in here in evening, Tereak and Ed, and we got Paxton and Red Devil Yannick coming in here as well. Really appreciate you guys, and Grace, for those listening, is going to watch Titanic in 4DX. Wow. Hope you have a good one, and let us know in the Discord server if it is any good. Give us a rating out of 10, and if you do recommend for us to all watch it as well.
We won't spoil the ending.
No spoilers. As those, everyone has watched it by now, surely. Even I've watched it, and I'm not really a movie fanatic like that. But yeah, we'll move on from the movie and talk about a sad ending in that one there to possibly, but we'll wait and see, a sad ending into Arsenal's title race. But could it be a blip, and could it be something that spurs them on as Aston Villa take on Arsenal at Villa Park in Birmingham? Ed, my bro, if you could hit us with the record and stats going into this one here.
Yeah, let's hope there's no icebergs in the vicinity. So for the last 5 meetings between Villa and Arsenal, we've got 3 wins for Arsenal and 2 wins for Aston Villa. And if we look at the form, Arsenal's form nowhere near what it was not that long ago now, with 3 losses in the last 5. One of those being the FA Cup loss to Man City, and the draw and the win there. And Villa, I think their form shows you probably why they're sitting nice and pretty right in the middle of the table, with 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5 games.
And in terms of the injury news, big injury news for Aston Villa. Tyrone Mings missed the last game against Manchester City last week, Sunday. As Emery said, he had a small injury and tried to be fit, but he wasn't ready. But he should be ready for this game here. So Tyrone Mings, who should be ready, should come straight back into that back line. Most likely for former Arsenal player Callum Chambers right there. But Villa will still continue to be without Diego Carlos, Bertrand Traore and Jed Steer. So that's one big news, really, one big update for Aston Villa in that sense. Arsenal, of course, Thomas Partey, who is now out with an injury. It's reported to be a lower back injury, and it was actually picked up after training. So it's not too much that's come out or that I've seen, unless something's come out and broken through in the last hour or so about this, but it does seem to be an innocuous one for Thomas Partey. And yeah, we've still got to assess that there, but he's very unlikely to be fit for this one. And the same goes with Emil Smith-Rowe, who's meant to be getting closer, meant to be getting ready and pushing and knocking on that door, but this game will come too soon for him, and possibly next see him in the squad for the Leicester game, all things going well. But other than that, we're still without Gabriel Jesus and Mohamed El Neni. So those 4 injury updates there, right there. So no Thomas Partey and no Emil Smith-Rowe, the more recent ones. Too soon for both of them. But Ed, we have to talk about last night, of course, and feels like I'm sure plenty of people said that as well, with Valentine's Day just passing of late. But yeah, not in good terms, people, because Arsenal lost to Manchester City in a massive game, in a game that had a lot hindering on it in terms of the psychological factors of it. Manchester City returning to the top of the table, Arsenal losing their grip and losing their 5 points. And yeah, 5 points was really the most that Arsenal had and could have and had opportunities to extend it to 8. I want to ask you your thoughts first on this as a neutral, and then I'll go into my thoughts afterwards. And yeah, how I'm feeling now. But how do you feel in terms for Arsenal and the blip that they're going through right now? And is it their season over?
Oh, no. To answer that first question first, no, the season's not over. What, we're 22 games in? That means we've got, 16 left for most teams. So some have got slightly less than that. No, there's a lot of points up for grabs. Man City have looked fallible at times in this season as well. Thoughts on last night's game? I felt like Arsenal's period of dominance was definitely there. I think they dominated the game overall more than Man City, but Man City were ruthless in their chances. That we spoke about it earlier. That, don't get it twisted, the Kevin De Bruyne finish is not automatic. That's not a tap in from 5 yards out. That's not even as easy as a chance as Eddie Nketiah's header. If we're being truly honest, a rising ball on your weaker foot with an on-rushing 6'2" goalkeeper, it's not simple to put away. Man City pounced on that mistake. I still felt Arsenal came back. I think there was a slight hesitancy with the way Arsenal played in the game, and I think that's what they're going to have to learn if they are going to win this season or any other season upcoming. Those players, they're a very young squad, as you mentioned most weeks, but it's not just the age that might have come into fruition. I think last night, we were seeing a lot of experienced winners for Man City against the upcoming pretenders in Arsenal. And I think that was the only real difference. I think I mentioned it last night, between the years, I feel like Man City edged it in that second half. There was a change in how Man City played in the counter press yesterday in the second half. And I felt Arsenal did a very good job of exploiting Pep's weird Bernardo Silva at left centre-back, left-back, defensive midfield role that he was playing last night. And I think it just showed, I think, a little bit that Arsenal are still at the moment the pretenders to the title, and Man City, with all of their experience and money, let's be honest, I think showed a little bit more in that second half. And maybe a question back to you, T, is that I know I mentioned it last night on the watch along, and I still feel it even more so today. I think players' hesitancy was definitely there. Inexperience at being at top for the way they were in the Man City game was definitely there. But for me, I think the person that needs to look at themselves the most today is Mikel Arteta. Do you agree?
Do you know what? I disagree. Do you know? And the reason why I disagree is because, you know, as you said there, in terms of the hesitancy from the players, and I think they still have to take a lot of responsibility in that sense. And the main reason why I disagree is because the two goals that come from Manchester City are two errors. The first two ones that they score, the one that, you know, of course, Tomiyasu with that mistake right there. Arteta said after the game, we haven't seen Tomiyasu make that type of back pass in 7 years, and he's not been at the club for 7 years. But it just shows that Arsenal were obviously keeping track of him there. But that error you don't see from attack hero Tomiyasu, and he's not. That's out of character, and that's where, you know, it's a misjudgment, but, you know, and it's being capitalized to at the most ruthless and the most harsh punishment to that extent. And that also happened from the second goal from Gabriel's error, as he gave the ball away in his own half when he was very high up the pitch, and they counter attacked that. And Jack Grealish got a little bit of fortune as well with the deflected shot from Tomiyasu, and even he spoke about that afterwards as well. That he felt like he deserved that little bit of luck as well. So he's even admitted that he got a little bit of luck there also. So I don't think, and then of course there's going to be eyes upon Mikel Arteta with the substitutions when Pep Guardiola made his substitution and made his tactical change, and Arteta didn't respond to that. I do think there is credence, and you are valid to say in that point that he does need to take responsibility as well. And there was substitutes that needed to be made whilst the game was at 2-1 and then could have changed eventually. But at the end of the day, in these pressure games, you said it, the first thing that you said before the game is the first goal is going to be key. We say that a lot on this channel. It's a football cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. In these games, you have to score the first goal. And if you don't score the first goal, you have to score when you've got a period of dominance. And Arsenal, each time that they were getting into it, and after each big chance, Manchester City scored. Eddie Nketiah missed the header, which he should have done much better with. Not 60 to 90 seconds later, Manchester City score and they take the lead. And when Xhaka had that hesitancy, which a lot of people has been speaking about, and the reason why we're speaking about it so much is because what happened straight afterwards, in literally 90 seconds later, Jack Grealish goes and makes it 2-1, and that's where the games are lost. So yeah, that is to answer that one there. And in terms of how I'm feeling now, it was hard straight away after the game. I couldn't go on any social media. I didn't want to have a look at Twitter. I didn't even want to have a look at what really other people were saying or anything like that, because I knew it was going to be a tough one and to take, given how much, you know, this has been in the back of a lot of Arsenal fans' minds and the confidence that they were feeling entering this game and the dent that it's going to hit across a lot of the fan base. However, the energy that we need to be giving out to these players and the mindset is job is, you know, as Kobe Bryant said, job not finished. In terms of Arsenal, we still have a game in hand and we still have control of this situation where I don't want to see. I don't think we will, and I don't want to see. Similarities to what happened last season when we lost to Spurs, and we still had control of that there, but then we eventually capitulated. I don't think we will see that because it's a completely different. Yeah, I think we're in different stages in the season for starters. We're not that close to the end. There's still a lot of football to be played, and Manchester City, as you said, trust me, guys, they're going to still continue to drop points. And I think they've already got two more defeats than they did at the whole of last season. So they've got, and that's 4. And so they've doubled the amount of defeats that they've had since last season. I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking there's still a long way to go. Arsenal need to be looking at this game against Aston Villa and bouncing back. And if we are, and pick up a run from here and go at it. And that's what we need to look at. And that's where the energy and the focus needs to be shifted now. Move on from that. That's what I want the players to be doing. I know Mikel Arteta will be trying to do that. We've seen it in the All or Nothing documentary. We have we have so much more knowledge and understanding of Mikel Arteta. There was obvious things that we need to work on and the flaws that we've been seeing from set pieces. Even Manchester City going in and playing long ball, they've obviously sent something there and tried to play. It's not even with the first ball; it's the second balls that other teams have been trying to work off of. Saliba was fantastic yesterday, but those are the things that we're going to need to work on because Unai Emery will be certainly trying to do this and work on that for sure in this game. So yeah, I just wanted to see because you've got plenty of people in the chat right here, and I want to hear what you guys are saying. And then we'll get into our thoughts on this game and how Aston Villa are going to set out because we need to talk about them as well, of course. But first, let's see what you're saying in the chat. We worked City in the first half. Unlucky mistake, had us 1-1. But then in the second half, we didn't keep going at them. And then Pep made changes. Dirty Silva from left back, kicking Saka. He moved in further forward and brought on Akanji. Pep, in terms of that, bro, kind of what you're saying there. With that's the difference. And those things made the difference for Manchester.
I do think on reflection, Bernardo Silva was quite lucky to not get booked earlier.
Yeah, with that first one, and he made a couple of fouls on that. It's true, but yeah, that's also City showing, their trust within their depth, whereas we still don't really have that. A lot of trust with Arteta with our depth. It's still quite small. The squad that he's working with, the players that he really wants to get behind him.
The budgets are. You can't match them. You can't match Man City. There aren't many teams that can match Man City man for man in terms of investment in that team. Grant, I know they've got some players like Foden and Rico Lewis that are obviously youngsters and homegrown, but there's an awful lot of money spent. Grant, both teams, but at some point, most teams in the Premier League, you don't really get past 13, 14 starters, to use an NBA phrase.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's not even really to do with the budget. It's more to the stage of the squad is still at. We are overachieving in terms of our expectations and a lot of the club's expectations for this season. We have tried to capitalize on that by making January signings to try and secure us in terms of depth. So I still think that we weren't built to win a league title this season. However, that's not excusing if we don't do it in the position that we've been in. But those are the slight weaknesses that we're seeing. And I saw Luke earlier started talking about here, and it's perfect timing about we have no plan B. I'd like to see Martinelli and Saka switch now and again. Play Tierney and not ask him to invert. Try Zinni in midfield. Go two up front, for example. I hear that. But in terms of the two up front, we don't even have another striker, which is why I don't really agree with all the criticism that Eddie's been getting, and people saying, this shows he's not at the level, this and that. Guys, we got to remember, since the World Cup, he's been playing 90 minutes week in, week out. FA Cup, in the Premier League, 2 games a week. We've not even rotated at all, and he's only come off the pitch once. And there's been an over reliance on Eddie Nketiah, which is why I was so adamant that we needed to sign a forward in January, which we didn't. Of course, the market didn't allow us to, thank you, Chelsea. But yeah, in that sense, so it would be nice to see a switch up. And if we do see a future with Martinelli playing up top or a Trossard eventually, maybe that can happen. Maybe Arteta can try that as well. And yeah, the Tierney going in and then putting Zinchenko in midfield. I hear that. And these are things that Arteta's going to be thinking upon as we enter this Villa game here. And then Moss is also saying about here and co-signing that point. But I think it's important now that we talk about this upcoming game, Aston Villa, bro. How do you see the home side setting up in this one?
With Unai Emery, probably still quite counter-attack and defensive base first. I think if you look at where Villa are right now, sitting 11th, are they going to think that maybe this is still a big dip for Arsenal that they're going to make the most of? I think a lot of Villa fans that I know that I've spoken to are wondering whether Unai Emery's tactics are right at the moment. They've kind of they started well and hit a bit of a plateau, and whether or not that they have the players to play his system. But you've got to think Villa at home against a team that are second, that were a few weeks ago relatively free at the top and are going through whatever we want to call this, a blip. Villa might be thinking that there's a chance here to keep that blip going. I still have real concerns over Villa's firepower up front. I thought the selling of Ings was an interesting one. He's not really an Emery player, but they have very streaky players that can score in runs, but then they can dry up quite quickly. Players like Ollie Watkins are very industrious, but although he's scored a few recently, they can quickly dry up, and they have dried up throughout his career, not just at Villa in the Premier League. So it's going to be interesting to see with Villa at home, will they try and soak up the pressure? Will Arsenal dominate possession, which is what you think, based on the way both teams play, you think it's going to work that way. But if Arsenal are in this blip with the hesitancy that we saw yesterday, depending on how they react to it with the short turnaround in time as well, Villa might be thinking that they're onto something here. They might be able to sneak a win in this one. But I think I'll nail my colours to the mast straight away. I'm saying that I don't see Villa scoring in this game and cue them scoring now. But I've gone for a 2-0 Arsenal win.
Interesting. And yeah, and just touching on Villa, just before I get into some of the questions in the chat talking about Arsenal, how they set up, it's usually with a 2 up top now that we've seen from Unai Emery, unless he does change. And we know that Unai Emery does make changes to suit his opponent and sometimes doesn't really focus upon his team strengths and tries to negate against the opponent and tries to combat their strengths first. So he does usually start with a 2 up top. Ollie Watkins always there since the sale of Danny Ings, and he's going to be running the channel as well. We've seen Leon Bailey play there up against Manchester City. Didn't have a great game, kind of trying to link up with him as well in a 4-2-2 formation. So they can be quite open in the middle of the park, but if they have learned anything from Everton, Brentford and Manchester City, is try and pack out that middle of the park against Arsenal, try and create those numbers so that Arsenal aren't able to overload. Man City allowed us to do that in the first half, and that's when we started to get a bit more joy, and we saw some of the fluid, beautiful football from Arsenal on occasions. But if that's what Villa are going to have to try and do, so that I think for them to do that, they'll have to take out one of Watkins or Bailey. Most likely it will be Leon Bailey, unless they were willing to drop him in a deeper role and try and put a 3 in the middle. That's the only way that I can see Villa trying to contain us and then trying to maybe get something from a set piece or a counter attack, as they're, they were in a good bit of form themselves. So they've just hit a blip recently after their 4-2 loss to Leicester and then losing to Manchester City, of course. But King's asked a question in here in terms of how I would want to see Arsenal set up ourselves. It says, question to T, would you start Fabio Vieira against Aston Villa? He looked lively and Xhaka has been a bit off these last few games. Do you know what, King? I would start Fabio Vieira. But if you're starting Fabio Vieira in this game, I do think that means you'll have to make changes elsewhere. And those changes that I would make, I would actually take out Zinchenko and bring in Benjamin White. And so that will mean I would move Tomiyasu out to left back and put Benjamin White into that right back position as well. So we're kind of playing with the same back four that we played against Liverpool when we beat them 3-2. And that's four big guys to deal with the aerial threat. And I think it's going to be massive in terms of doing that when coming up against Villa, who will try and cause us problems from set pieces. That's been our weakness. We have to be honest, guys, even from the Man United game, when Martinez scored that goal, Everton, Brentford and Man City tried it as well on a couple of occasions with their set pieces. We need to be able to defend those long balls. And to do that, we're going to need four centre-back. We're going to basically need four players in those areas when they do go long to be able to win them and be strong and physical for the second balls. Whereas, without Partey, maybe I would be reluctant to bring in and take out Zinchenko. But with that there, I do think we're going to need to have a bit more physicality to cope with these long balls and the presence, and if Villa decide to go in that way. So I'd look to do that. And then you can always bring on a Zinchenko as well. And then if we need to be pushing further and he'll make a bigger difference and he gives us something else off of the bench as well. Trossard, I'd like to see come in and start this one. He looked lively on certain points and then he looked like he was about to win that penalty as well. There was a lot of talk bringing in Trossard for this game. For the Manchester City game, it didn't happen. It was unfortunate really because Martinelli just couldn't get into the game at all. As in the first half, we didn't even go down that left-hand side many times. We went down the right to try and combat that Bernardo Silva at left back position, and we gained a bit of joy there. And then, of course, in the second half, we could barely get out of our area or even our own half at points. And then when we did, Xhaka didn't decide to pass or shoot, and then so he was made a bit redundant in them situations there. So those are the few changes that I would make. So yeah, King, it's a good one. And let Villa, and there you go, says Luke. Villa are dangerous at set pieces, and we're not defending them with much very well at the moment. So we're definitely going to need to do that as well. So Ed, your prediction was 2-0 to Arsenal.
It was.
My prediction for this one, it's a massive game, and this one was always going to be a massive game after the Manchester City one, whether we won this or lost. And now obviously we've lost it, so it's perceived to be even bigger. But if we would have won it, it's just as big, because if we would have beaten Manchester City and then don't pick up the 3 points here, it kind of negates, and it kind of would be, are Arsenal that serious, or are they showing a bit of inconsistency? So for us to pick ourselves up, and we need to go on a run of games and try and take this back into our hands and build up the momentum and go on a run that we did at the start of the season, brand new clean slate. Aston Villa, we need to beat them. I don't think it's going to be a pretty performance. I think we're going to edge this one 1-0. Players will be a bit fatigued, and we might see a bit of rust creeping in towards the end of the game, as we may lose a little bit of control. I think that's natural because the players did start to tire at the end of the Manchester City game, I do think. But yeah, I think we'll start fast. We'll grab that goal in that first half, and then the second half will be a painful one for the heart, but I think we'll edge it out in the end. So I've gone with 1-0 to the Arsenal. Let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the chat. Those who are watching live, for your predictions in here. Paxton, he put them in nice and early as we was reading out the good evening comments. And Paxton's gone with a bad evening for Villa, saying that they're going to lose by 2-1. Last minute Erdegaard free kick to send Emery off without points. Right, big up Paxton. I hope you're right with this, my bro. I really do. Luke has gone for a 2-0 Aston Villa win. So Luke thinks that this is going to be a spiral into for Arsenal, and we're going to struggle to bounce back in this one here. Paxton, Arsenal injury update after every match this week, T. Yeah, it does feel like that. 2-1 to Arsenal, says Red Devil Yannick. Once again, I hope you're all right, but I hope this one is bang on, as Peony says 5-0 to the Arsenal. Amy says 3-1 to Arsenal. Mr. 200 says 2-1 to Arsenal in there. Arteta needs to figure out his substitutions. Yes, I agree, Amy, but then I'll also say that he's been, not having a forward and not having another striker, shall I say, has been a contributing factor to that, because I always date back to that Fulham game when he brought on Eddie and we had 2 strikers up there and it really did help. So yeah, I think Arteta needs to find out who he really trusts at this moment in time. Big up yourself as well, my brother King, as Nav says that I think we can bounce back in this one. Let us know your prediction as well, Nav. Big up yourself and thanks for tuning in, my bro. Jorginho was arguably our best player. Yes, he was indeed. Mr. 200 says Haaland should have been sent off for the elbow on Gabriel. I think it's a bit harsh, but yeah, but should have got a yellow card, I'd say, at the very least. In terms of Peony, yeah, Jorginho was our best player, and he did surprise a lot of people indeed. But Moss has gone with 2-1 to the mighty Arsenal there. Eddie better redeem himself or else, but Trossard and Eddie to score versus Watkins. And hopefully by after this game, we might see a return of Gabriel Jesus. And Amy's final prediction we have in here is 3-1 to Arsenal. I'm thinking of right now, depends on Partey's status. I'm not sure we will see him. I'm not sure we will indeed. But yeah, I do think Vieira should start. Let's move on into the side that beat us, and that was Manchester City. They play at 3:00 away to Nottingham Forest in this one here. Bro, hit us with the records and stats for this one. And I'm sure for the last 5 meetings, the last time these guys would have played each other, would that have been in the Premier League, possibly?
Yeah, they played once this season, and all the others.
Oh yeah,
we're talking Championship days for both teams before Man City's money. So they're ticking along the bottom, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just the one game this year where Man City won at home. For Forest, they're 3 losses in the last 5 with a win and a draw, and Man City unbeaten in the last 5. Almost in the last 5, just the 1 loss right in the middle there.
There you go. In terms of injury news, we'll talk about Manchester City first, because I can say this in one breath. John Stones is the only one who is out at the moment for Manchester City, but I think he was on the bench. Was he on the bench yesterday?
No.
He wasn't on the bench. Okay,
No.
so yeah, he's the only one that is out at the moment, yeah, for Manchester City. And this is where I need to take a deep breath. For Nottingham Forest, as you probably saw in Match of the Day, or if you was keeping up to date with Nottingham Forest last week, they had 2 centre-backs injured at the exact same time with the exact same injury to the thigh in Willy Bolly and Scott McKenna. So they'll most likely not be fit for this one here, as well as Moussa Niakate, Dean Henderson, Tyrell Wanyi, Jesse Lingard is a doubt, but he could return for this one here. And that goes with Ryan Yates as well, who could also return. But we definitely know that Biancone, Omar Richards, and Cheku Kiarte are out as well. So the only 2 players that could return is Ryan Yates and Jesse Lingard. Eds, we kind of spoken a little bit of Manchester City when talking about the Arsenal game, but we have to talk about the things that, to be fair, we have to talk about where they were impressive, and that is how ruthless they were with those big chances that they made, and how they took them, and how they pounced on Arsenal's mistakes. And also, for me, the change at halftime, how we saw them set up in the second half, and how Pep really got into them, made the tactical tweaks that really changed. Because there's a lot of people that when they talk about Pep Guardiola, right, and they say he overthinks things a lot, and in big games he makes these sort of errors, and where Pep Guardiola needs to make things a little bit more simpler. I think he did overcomplicate it in the first with that Bernardo Silva tactic, but then I also thought that packing out of the midfield, it worked. But Gundogan was, for me, their man of the match. and the best player, and he was the one that had the most influence for them. And he was playing off of those second balls for Haaland. He was the first one being in and around. Haaland didn't even win a lot of those challenges, but the fact that when Manchester City were able to gain ground or gain a bit of possession off of those long balls was when Gundogan was making that impact. So I think even though Bernardo out at that left back position didn't quite work, he still had an impact on the game from a possession standpoint and crowding round in the midfield when Manchester City were trying to press high. So massive credit there. Is there anything else that you'd like to point out for Manchester City?
No, I think
it was impressive.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. To be honest, I think the adjustments to his own tactics, I think, is something that Pep's really evolved with over the last few years. I think the admittance that he did in the press conference afterwards to say that he got the first half wrong, and Arteta won the battle in the first half. I think shows the evolution of him as a manager. Of course, he's always about control. We say that every week, and there was no control for Man City in that first half. And I still think Arsenal played well enough in the second. I'd say that Man City never controlled the game.
Yeah,
but the tweak in the tactics and the changing of the substitution sort of 8-9 minutes into the second half, when obviously the same problems were still arising, I think just shows the ability of a manager to actually change things. And we've seen it with, obviously, he's a former apprentice in Mikel Arteta this year as well, with how he's managed to stamp a similar level of control and tactic on Arsenal. But I think we saw yesterday just Pep rolled the dice first, and it came up trumps for him, I think.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of Nottingham Forest, with the last time they played Manchester City, Haaland scored one of his many hat-tricks in this Premier League season, and Alvarez was very impressive too. They're going to really struggle to cope with Manchester City's attack, with all those defenders being out. Three of their first choice centre-backs in Niakate, who when he's played one game this season, and I thought he'd done quite well for him. And then Bolly's been brought in, Scott McKenna, they've been the regulars being out. You can't be facing Manchester City with that sort of deficiency at the back. Although Forest, massive credit to them from so far this season, because they have bounced back and they have done really well of late. And in certain games, but in these types of games where the quality comes too much, like when they played Manchester United, played off they've been able to stay around in points, but the quality shows in the end. I'm going to go first with my prediction. Unfortunately, I do think it is going to be a Manchester City win. Guys and Arsenal fans watching, don't get me wrong. Manchester City will drop points as well before. I don't see them going on a run until the end of the season. I may be proven wrong. Don't think that's going to happen, but I think they are going to, remain top of the league by the end of the weekend, no matter what happens in the Arsenal game with this one here. So I'm going to go with a 3-0 Manchester City win. What's your prediction, and how do you think this game's going to pan out, bro?
Yeah, similar to what you said. I think even with a full Forest, I mean, they've got 75 players, and I think he could probably put 25 of them in defence. And I think Haaland might cause some upsets with who's actually available for them. I've gone for 4-0 in this game, purely because I think Forest are doomed and they're going to get dragged back into it. I think their upturning form after the World Cup is what people were expecting, with the fact that they were starting to know their players more, and obviously they brought a few more in. Of course they have. But you can't go up against a Man City team with a makeshift back four, and you certainly can't go up against Haaland with a makeshift centre-back partnership. I see him. Shaq always says barbecue chicken, doesn't he? When he talks about someone that was too small to guard him, and I think it might be very similar for whatever the Norwegian version of barbecue chicken is for Haaland.
Moss will probably be able to tell us. But do you know what?
Something with fish, I'd imagine.
But I'm thinking as well, we're both on for clean sheets right here. Playing devil's advocate as well a little bit. Are we being a bit generous to say that Manchester City will keep a clean sheet as well? they've not been convincing, especially away from home from a defensive aspect, and they have conceded a bit of goals, and they conceded the chances to Forest. And one of the areas of strengths that I'll say they have is certainly in their attack with Brennan Johnson, Morgan Gibbs-White. In the second half since the World Cup, he's been really good and a player to watch, I think, for the rest of the season. If Forest were to go down, I'm sure he's staying in the Premier League for how he's done so far. And there was a lot of money spent on that. So are we being a bit generous, or what's your reason for going for a clean sheet?
My reason is for probably what I always say for Man City. I just think that the other team won't have the ball enough in this game. I think there'll be a level of control brought back to this game. I don't think Man City are going to necessarily go long against Nottingham Forest, which is what they did against Arsenal yesterday. For whatever reason, obviously the change in the approach play was like 20, 30 yards more in every pass than what you'd normally expect from a Pep Guardiola team. So I just think you can definitely see a breakaway goal. There's pace in that team, but I just think there's going to be maybe too much for Forest to break down. Personally,
possibly, yeah, because I'm kind of convinced of myself here to go for a Forest goal, because Manchester City, I think they're in their element though. And I think they were actually most vulnerable when they do have possession. Because on the breakaway, that's when most teams go for fast and direct against them. Because it's hard to break down City when they're set on their block. It's hard to break them down in that way, or when they're set up defensively. Most of the time, they get the goals from in transition when they concede, because they're not quite in the right places or quite quick enough to stop them. It's not about how Man United were able to grab their goals, but yeah, I'm still going with the 3-0. But if Forest do score, I wouldn't be surprised. Paxton going with a 4-0 City there. Peeney's gone with a 1-0 Forest because City are strange. Exactly. Honestly, I don't think it would happen, but it wouldn't. This is the Premier League. It's the Premier League. Big up yourself, my brother CM, each and every time. Blessings to TED Talks and a wonderful TTF. Luke says 3-0 City. Right there. Pet the bald fraud, says Paxton. What else? What are the predictions we got in here? Amy says 4-1 Manchester City. 6-0 City, says Nav. They have Homelander from the boys. I hear that. I like that one. Homelander. Yeah, he does seem like a superhero with his powers at the moment. So fast. And when they had that penalty that was overturned for offside, yeah, he just showed his brute strength and speed there. And yeah, he'll give them nightmares at the back for sure. City will go 3-0 up and then just take it easy in the second half, as they've got Champions League midweek. Yes, they do, up against Leipzig. So we may see a bit of rotation there as well for City. As Nav says, as every single Arsenal fan is feeling right now. I want City to lose, but I can't see it happening. Hope not. Yeah. I hope not. I hope they do, of course. But yeah, we'll see, Nav. We will see indeed. And let's move on into the next game. It is a relegation one, and we're moving from the top of the league all the way down to the bottom, and it's a massive one. Everton versus Leeds at Goodison Park. Sean Dyche back again at Goodison Park after his first game with a win up against Arsenal. But Leeds still managerless and hanging just outside the relegation zone. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this relegation 6-pointer.
Yeah, so the last 5 meetings there, just ticking along at the bottom. We've got 2 draws just for Everton and just the 1 win for Leeds. And talking about 1 win, that's what Everton have got in the last 5, which is, of course, the fabled Sean Dyche victory against Arsenal a couple of weekends ago. Leeds' form, almost as inconsistent, but with a little bit more in there for them. So 2 draws, 2 losses, and a win.
For the injury news for Everton, what we have is an update on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It does look like it will be too soon for him with that thigh injury. So, unfortunately, no Dominic Calvert-Lewin for Everton. As it stands, it still may change from now, but we're going to go with from now that he's not going to be fit for this game with his thigh injury. And then, of course, other long-termers who are out in Andros Townsend. He's out for this one. However, I did say long-termers. It was only one because James Garner and Nathan Patterson are both returned playing this week from the under-21s. And yeah, so interesting right there. So they are returning back there, but this game will come too soon for them by the looks of it. But they have returned to play for the under-21s this week. And then for Leeds, they've got a ridiculous injury list. Let me tell you, there's the ones who are guaranteed to be out. So no Rodrigo, no Adam Forshaw, no Stuart Dallas in this one here. However, we may see Mark Rocker. That's the big one, I'd say. If he returns, then he will give them a big boost, as well as Liam Cooper, the skipper. Too soon for Sinistera. This game is as well. And Pascal Strauch should return after his concussion that he got last week before the Man United game, which was against Man United. I think he picked it up in actually. So Everton versus Leeds, my bro. Massive game. Everton, they're going to want to bounce back after that Liverpool defeat, of course, and Leeds still managerless, still haven't got a manager in charge, as they said. Their current interim manager, I can't remember his surname.
Skabala, isn't it? Skabala.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say Muscala, but, you know, that was a centre in the NBA. But, yeah, so Everton versus Leeds is huge. And even if it's a bit early to say a relegation 6-pointer, there's still a lot riding on it. But how do you see this one going for both sides?
I don't think it's too early to say this is isn't a relegation 6-pointer. If Leeds win, all of a sudden they're 4 points clear of Everton. And when it's more than a game away, a game back, again to use an NBA phrase, the pressure ramps up even more. So I think this is a nailed on relegation 6-pointer, and that's why we're going with it third in the running order as well, I'd say. This game's interesting because I think Leeds, I've happened to have watched the last few games just because they've been on when I've been free to watch them. And I thought they played quite well against Man United in both games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think they've had good performance this year. And they're one of those teams that, a bit like when we get onto Spurs a bit later, you scratch your head and wonder, I've just watched them. How are they that far down the league? Because the performances don't seem to match up with the points. And of course, points is all that really matters. Everyone can look great until, you know, the end of the game when you haven't won. And with Everton, there was a reaction in that game against Arsenal. There was a good performance. Of course, Arsenal were below par from what they would expect, but Everton, I thought, played well in that game from the extended highlights and the bits and pieces we watched in and around the birthday party that we were at for my son's birthday on the day. I don't know. I think Moss has put in the comments he needs help with this one, and I think so do I. This was the last one that I predicted because I couldn't pick between the two, but I also didn't feel like a draw was going to help either team. But ultimately, I have gone for a draw. I've gone for two teams cancelling themselves out, and I've gone for a 1-1 in this game. Leeds with some of their attacking threat, Nonto, Bamford, I don't see Everton keeping them out, but I also can see Everton, especially from a set piece under Dyche, picking something up, and that's kind of where I feel this game is going to be. This isn't going to be one for the people that love free-flowing football. This is for a football purist that likes to see two teams going at it, I think. And I see this being both teams cancelling themselves out. And if I had to, gun to my head, if I had to pick a team, I'd go with Everton, just because of the Sean Dyche factor and the fact that the Leeds are under the tutelage of a under-21s manager and an ex-England under-18s manager. Just the tactics and things are going to be slightly different after Jesse Marsch is gone. But I see both squads, and I think the players at Leeds and the form that Leeds are in is still better than Everton, but I'm giving Everton a little bit of love for being at home, which is why I'm going with a 1-1 in this one.
I can't actually see Everton scoring more than one goal without Dominic Calvert-Lewin up top. I think that's a massive factor and a big reason why they were able to gain a bit of confidence and have that resurgence against Arsenal and gain a lot of belief. They did pick up their goal against Arsenal from a set piece, so they do have that threat, and they obviously hit the post against Liverpool early on there. So if Everton are going to score, I can't see them scoring more than one, and one will be the most. It's all about Leeds, though. Can they take advantage of these opportunities that they do? They have the quality without a Rodrigo up there to take them and put them into the back of the net? Because obviously Patrick Bamford's not showing the form, and he can't even stay fit really to either. And it's a battle of two. The reason these teams are down there is because they can't rely on their focal point to stay fit and to return to the form that they previously have shown in Bamford and Calvert-Lewin, who are England strikers on their day. I think this one will also be a draw. I'm going to say it's going to be a 0-0 one, though. I went for a 0-0 for Everton against Liverpool, and I did say if they do concede that I don't think they'll be able to win, and they didn't, and they weren't able to score in the end. But if Leeds score, I think that good feeling at Everton could soon go back to what it was previously. Why the reason why the owners can't go into the stadium right now. You see, so it's still, yes, there was a brilliant atmosphere for the Arsenal game, but it's still quite delicate, I'd say, sensitive, depending on what's happening on the pitch. So I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw, though. A draw doesn't suit either side, really, in this one, but I think they might cancel each other out as well in this one. Let's see what you're saying, guys. As me and Ed are both sat on the fence there, are you going to be brave enough to back an Everton win or an Leeds away win right here? Let's see what you're saying, guys, in the chat. So we've got right here, Peeny's gone. He's not gone. He said, forget the fence. I don't even know why I'm not building one of them. I'm gonna go straight for a 4-3 Everton win. Once again, Peeny.
He's so against fences. He's even got rid of the defense.
Exactly. He did. But yeah, Peeny, it's a Premier. It could actually happen. That's the maddest part. Everton 2, Leeds 2. So Paxton join us on that fence. But he's gone for a fun view from his fence right there with 4 goals onto that one there. Amy's gone for a 3-2 Leeds win, but not locked in with that score. Don't worry, Amy. You can lock them in when you get them into the comments here. But it's interesting to see that you think Leeds will win because you've gone with the 2-1 here because Leeds hasn't scored in a match recently, so they could bounce back here. Nav has gone for a 2-1 Everton win, being at home and building on that performance. And they're going to try and build a fortress. That's what I'm guessing what you're saying there, Nav, right there, reading into that prediction. As you said, Dycheball. Yep, translated that well. Let me know if I have, Nav, from what you said there. Want to say Leeds win, but think has a draw written all over it. Tough call. 1-1, I guess, too. Maybe Gray, Jamaican, they should be starting him and Nyonto to get another, says that there. And big up yourself as well, Terry Blackwell. I'm guessing Plymouth fan in the place. I hope you're keeping good. And Plymouth, yep. How they're doing this season as well, Terry, let us know. We'll be interested. I find it interesting to know how they're doing because I know Plymouth had a good season last season as well. So was it Sonny Carey that you had? Who was a star man? Is he still there? Let us know. Guys who don't watch lower league football probably think I'm speaking a different language right now.
I'm pretty sure they're top. I'm pretty sure they're top 2. I think.
Top. Serious?
One,
wow.
Yeah. I think so.
No way. Hey, there you go, right there.
Yeah, they are. I've just checked. They are.
Wow. Big up yourself, Terry. Hey, hopefully Arsenal can finish top with you guys there. And we'll both have a great time on this channel. But there you go, right there. And let's move on into the next game that we have. And it is the main one. It is the headline game. And it is a headline because it's got a lot of history behind it within the Premier League. And especially for both clubs, in all honesty, in top 4 and on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how their chances are going to be fighting for that top 4 spot. Newcastle currently holding that spot right there. Hit a little bit of a down patch, which I'm sure Ed will talk about and go into more detail. And then Liverpool, if they are to make a late charge, similarly to how they did in the COVID lockdown season where they managed to finish 3rd, this game is going to be vital. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this match here.
Yeah, so we do have Newcastle versus Liverpool, and old enough, just like me, will remember Kevin Keegan slumped over the hoardings in those excellent 4-3s back in the day. But in the last 5 meetings, Newcastle have not won, and in fact, just to confirm, Newcastle haven't beaten Liverpool since 2015. So we are sort of 7-8 years now since Newcastle's last win. Liverpool have won 3 of the last 5, and there's been 2 draws. Liverpool's form looks a lot better with that last win against Everton on Monday night, with 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. And Newcastle unbeaten, but an awful lot of draws, as T was alluding to there. So Newcastle have played 22, won 10, drawn 11.
Wow.
So they are still the stingiest defence in the Premier League, with only 13, which is, I think, 8 better than the next best team, which is Arsenal, and ridiculous. But those draws are racking up. We're at 50% chance of a draw if you go on Newcastle stats alone.
That is crazy. the amount of goals they've conceded, really, and how many draws they get into. But in terms of the injuries front, right, I was going to put Callum Wilson on the front of this thumbnail, but another light-skinned English striker that just can't stay fit in Callum Wilson right here, and he's a doubt now to be playing in this game, right? 50% they're saying right here. He felt some tightness in training, so they're trying to work hard to get him fit. He is going to be a massive miss if he's not available for this one. Or however, if he is available, a huge boost as well into this one here. So keep an eye out for Callum Wilson before we get into Saturday. And then we also have the guarantee players that are not going to be available. The man himself, Bruno Guimaraes, it's his last game, the last game that he has to serve with that red card he picked up in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup against Southampton. So he's not available here. They will have no Matty Target still. Too close for him as this game, as he's in his rehab. Still too soon for him to return here. So no Matty Target. There is also no Joe Willock, no Emil Kraft as well, but there are some doubts surrounding right here. And apparently there was no Jamal Lascelles for personal reasons, so it will be interesting to see if he's going to be available here. But the other doubts that we have on, and it's going to be massive again, is Miguel Almiron and Alan Saint-Maximin for Newcastle. So it's going to be an interesting one to see their lineup when they do get announced. I'm sure that will play a big factor into everyone's predictions. So for this game, you might be better off to hold out as we get more team news coming out, which will come out tomorrow afternoon, early afternoon. But yeah, you've got until Saturday 12:30 to get your predictions in. And for Liverpool, this injury list is a lot better, looking a lot better for this one here. No Thiago, who's out with an injury, with a hip problem. He's not expected to return until March. And that's the same for Luis Diaz with his knee injury until March as well, till mid-March. And then we also have no Arthur Melo, and this game will most likely be too soon for Ibrahima Konate. So they're the only ones who are out, whereas everyone else is fit for Liverpool as it stands. Interesting one right there. And I wonder if that's played into any of your predictions in the chat, the injury news. But whilst you're getting them in, Ed, it's your turn to go first. Mm-hmm. Newcastle versus Liverpool. Is it your turn? I think it is, or is it mine?
We can say it is. Doesn't matter.
Okay. No, I think it's mine, actually.
You go then.
Yeah. So yeah, because you went with a 1-1 draw last game first. Sorry. So it's my turn. Mm-hmm. Newcastle versus Liverpool. I think, honestly, when I was reading that injury list, it is definitely relying upon that as it stands right now. It does look better for Liverpool. I don't think that it's, that win against Everton was going to be, I don't think it is that resurgence, that first sign of Liverpool returning back to their best, like a lot of people think, because I was very disappointed with Everton, in all honesty, in the goals that they conceded. The 2 goals that Everton conceded were awful mistakes. You got to make the foul way earlier. The first goal, there's 3 errors from start to finish. Make the foul. Mikalenko, you have to commit and go with the man who's got the ball right there, right then. And then Jordan Pickford, you got to stand in the middle of your goal, son.
Yeah. Yeah, Pickford popped to the shops. I think a few people were putting that meme going around with that he's or he spotted someone in the crowd that he knows, and he's gone over to dap them up. And the ball's still in. Yeah, so just get back in your goal, Jordan. Is
exactly that there. And then unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say it. The error is from Connor Cody. And that's the big one. There was other errors where once again you make the foul earlier. That doesn't happen. That whole transition there. But Connor Cody leaving it at the back post. You gotta clear it, son. And I know it's difficult. I know exactly why he hasn't gone for it. If it's on his right foot, you definitely know he's going to clear that ball, but he doesn't trust it going onto his left foot, and he's thinking he might scoop it into the back of the net. So, and he said in the interview as well, the post game, I was just hoping that no one was there at the back post, but you can't do that. So that doesn't let him off. Me understanding and empathizing with him, because I'd probably if I tried to clear it with my right foot in that position, it's probably going into the top corner as well. So yeah, but it is an error, and he's let it go right past him when it's reaching distance for him to clear it away. So I don't think those Liverpool goals should really make people think, you know what, we're back. However, I was really impressed with that Stefan Bajcetic in midfield. I think he's a star in the making, 18 years of age, the calmness, the composure. He actually looks like an 18-year-old as well, which is weird because I'm talking about how good he is, but he seems like he's got this elegance and the real, Spaniard midfielder in him. He doesn't look like he should be playing in the Premier League. He looks like he should almost be playing next to Pedri and Gavi for Barcelona right there. But nah, Liverpool, they've got a gem on their hands there. And if he can, get build up and get into it and, build up a bit of physicality in there, or, really prove to be a Premier League midfielder in the future, then, that's one less midfielder that they need to, then they can consider in the summer in there. But I still think they need a couple anyway. But that solves an area in there, so they can only focus on one defensive midfielder in there. So that's a little bit of positiveness from them there. Firmino returning, Darwin Núñez shining a little bit. It's going to be massive. If they can score a goal, I think Newcastle will be, trembling, and they will be worried, because Newcastle's issue is scoring goals themselves. That's the hardest part, though, to do against Newcastle, is to score goals. But this little bit of downturn in form, a massive game returning at St. James's Park, it's another hard one to call. But I'm going to go with a draw to follow Newcastle's trend and to kind of show that I don't really believe in this Liverpool resurgence, and I don't think they're going to go on a run of games of just 10 to 12, because it's not injuries, guys. It's not injuries being Liverpool's issue. It's they need a refresh in their squad. That's what it is. When Liverpool went on that, were able to get third, it was entirely injuries at that point. That was the reason why they were that so far down. They didn't even have a centre-back. They've had the likes of Konate, Van Dijk, Matip at many, many points this season, and still haven't been at the level. So I've gone with a draw here. I'm going to go with a 1-1 in this one. Bro, what's your thoughts on this one? I've rambled on for a while talking about that one there. But yeah, what's your thoughts and prediction?
I don't disagree. I think the midfielder, both of these teams are missing important players, and I think Liverpool have missed midfielders since the start of the year, and even during the January transfer window, they've decided, when you've got a bowl of soup in front of you, they've gone for a fork with Gakpo instead of asking for a spoon and getting a midfielder. It doesn't really make much sense to me. I get that it will still work in a way. Gakpo, of course, getting off the mark as well, but didn't seem to address the concern at the time. And I'm really interested, and I'm talking about next year already, if all of Liverpool's attackers are still there and are fit, he's going to have to play 5 up front with the amount of players they've got. So I'm really looking forward to see how Liverpool do next year. But I'm going for a Liverpool win. I think the miss of Bruno midfield, the attacking prowess on the counter-attack for Liverpool is still there. Granted, I can't imagine Nick Pope's going to be in the, nowhere near the ball. He doesn't tend to come off his line at all. I think that's probably where both of those two are at the other ends of the spectrum, Pickford and Pope, when it comes to where they are on their lines. But I'm going for Liverpool 1-0 with a nod to how good Newcastle's defence is, that I'm only seeing one goal in this, and I'm just going to edge it to Liverpool. Just going to edge it to Liverpool because I think Newcastle at the moment, I think they are lacking an ability to score goals, and if Callum Wilson isn't available, Almiron, of course, proved me wrong. Like I said he would last week when I said I didn't see him scoring, and he did. But of course, it was a good finish, but a red open goal. I just don't see Newcastle getting many goals, and they aren't at the minute. So I'm just going to edge Liverpool in this one. I think just to be a little different.
There you go. 1-0. So I've gone with the 1-1. Ed's gone with a 1-0 Liverpool right there. Paxton himself has gone for a 1-0 Newcastle win. Penalty for Newcastle, as they always seem to draw now. So so he thinks that Newcastle are going to get back on and continue their unbeaten run, but get on the right side of the unbeaten run in picking up a win there. Peeny's gone for a 0-0 draw. New money versus Liverpool. Build that fence. Peeny's knocked it down and he's built a brand new one for this game here. Big up yourself there. I'm with you on that fence with the draw on this one here. Amy says Salah has been a ghost lately in matches. He has. He scored that goal against Everton. I don't think he's returning back to his best either, in all honesty, Amy. So, yeah, he has been a ghost. I'm sure if Liverpool are going to win, he's going to have a big performance here or a big contribution at the very least. Big up yourself, Reese in the building. My man, Tereak, good evening. Good evening to yourself as well. Thanks for tuning in, bro. And skipping some goal rush matches. We'll get back into the 3 o'clock ones, Moss. Don't you worry about there. 6 matches at once. Join the goal rush on and across the pond sports talk on Saturday. Go join him there if you do want to watch a casual soccer Saturday that we have here in the UK, where Moss will bring you all the updates from Saturday's games. Go check that one out on his channel there. King. Me, you, and Peony on that fence there, but he's gone exactly the same with a 0-0 draw. And Reese is joining us too with that 0-0 draw. And Red Devil Yannick and Moss. We got enough room on this fence with the draws right here. But the ones who aren't joining us are the likes of Amy, who's gone for a 2-0 Liverpool win. Mr. 200, who's gone for a 3-1 Liverpool win. Right there. So yeah, interesting from you guys as well. Amy's asking here, I'm going to ask you this, Ed. Do you think this is Alisson's last season at Liverpool? Thanks in advance.
I don't think so. Not that unless any rumours. I know we spent a long time on this, but I also think the Lascelles thing is because there's rumours that he's going to do mutual termination because Forest and Wolves want him. And we've got until the end of the month, I think, to pick up a free transfer. So I think that might be what it is. But that's all rumours from Wolves and Forest. If you just search up, latest transfer rumours, they're one of the things that are coming up. I don't think it'll be Alisson's last season, do you?
I mean, there's nothing that's saying right now that it will be. But, if the Premier League's crazy, right, in terms of transfers, and you wouldn't... I always say it wouldn't surprise you, but, with Alisson being a Brazilian goalkeeper, I won't say I don't think it will be, just purely because the money's not there around in Europe at the moment and what it would take for Liverpool, to make that move, essentially. So, I think he will remain this season. But as we move on into the next game as well, is Spurs versus West Ham right here. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this London derby, which is big for Spurs, fighting for top 4, and West Ham against the relegation battle lower down the table.
Yeah, and I think you'll touch on it, but Antonio Conte is staying in Italy, isn't he, for some R&R, I think, this weekend. So they are going to be managerless this weekend. Last 5 meetings, potentially. Last 5 meetings is 2 wins for both teams, and the last match was a draw. Spurs, of course, picked up a loss yesterday in Europe, but are on the back of 3 wins and 2 losses. And West Ham have arrested a little bit of a slide recently, going unbeaten in the last 2 wins, 2 draws, and just that 1 loss 5 games ago.
The injuries are racking up for Spurs with Yves Bissouma, Hugo Lloris, Ryan Sessegnon and Rodrigo Bentancur out for long periods of time. But with Bissouma, Lloris and Sessegnon, they are expected to return in April, whereas we know for sure Bentancur is out for the rest of the season. So big news right there for Spurs, and that's adding more salt into their wounds already, which has been a horrible week for them so far as well. For West Ham, we won't see the return of Zuma, Areola, Cornet in this game. It does come too soon, but they should be back next week. But yeah, they're big absentees in the defence as well for West Ham. Now for Giroud, who could return, who, you know, his first season at West Ham has been plagued with injuries. And even when he was so impressive in the World Cup, he missed the odd game due to injury there. He's got an adductor strain, so a strain in his groin right there. Aaron Cresswell is suffering with a virus this week, but he could return, and they will certainly need him in that left back position. You know, if as at the moment they've only got Emerson, who scored against Chelsea last week, but yeah, Aaron Cresswell, he can play at left back in that left centre back role for West Ham as well.
Randomly as well, he didn't celebrate. I didn't get.
Oh yeah, I know. Like he's a Chelsea legend.
Yeah. It's not exactly Frank Lampard coming back, is it?
Exactly that. It's true. I know. Oh, yeah. Emerson, they didn't like you anyway, so fair play to you though. Gianluca Scamacca, he could return for this one as well. He's another doubt into this one here, and they will certainly need him as another forward to bring on, because that's West Ham's issues right now. They can't score goals, but he's been out since the start of Feb with a knee injury, so West Ham fans will be hoping and praying he'll be fit for this one. And as well, that what we definitely know who won't be returning is Lucas Paqueta in here as well. So, Ed, Spurs versus West Ham. Both sides poor. Well, West Ham picked up a draw against Chelsea. They'll be a bit more positive about that. The feeling around the stadium still at West Ham is they're not happy. They're not happy at all, and they're kind of getting impatient with David Moyes. Spurs, they're getting impatient even with Antonio Conte. Some people believe that it's just not going to work out, this project. It's looking like that so far. How do you see this game going though, my bro?
I see two dull sides playing out a dull 1-1.
Dull
1-1. I don't get Spurs, and I say every single week, I don't get it. I don't get how they're fifth. I don't think they've played well for a collective hour in any game that I've watched them in, and yet they are still where they are. I think West Ham have shown a little bit more, of course, got very lucky last week against Chelsea with Souček's handball, for instance, which was definitely handball, and we don't need to speak anymore on VAR. So I just see this being two bald men fighting over a comb, is what they call it. I don't think there's going to be much in this game really to talk about. I think Spurs have been lacklustre. Their performance last week was one of the worst I think Spurs fans have said they've seen for a long time. The Iheanacho goal, where just Dyer watched him and just kept moving backwards until, I'm just going to shoot then. They miss Romero. Is Romero still out for this game?
No, he's back. He's back.
Yeah. He's back. I'm still going to go with 1-1, but to miss one player that much in a team where there's been an awful lot of money spent over the last few years, especially under Conte, I'm thinking it'll be a precious point for West Ham away from home, just to keep the points tally ticking over.
Yeah, in all fairness to Spurs, it's not just one player. They're missing Hugo Lloris and Ryan Sessegnon, and then they won't have Bentancur or Bissouma to call upon, so it'll likely be Ollie Skip or Pape Matar Sarr coming in, joining Højbjerg, and they were awful. Ollie Skip was not too bad in midweek against AC Milan, but it was an awful game overall. The one that I watched a little bit of it as I was switching over from the PSG one in that one there. But in my prediction, because Spurs don't have Antonio Conte, and the last time Cellini was the assistant manager, they won, and it was probably their best performance of the season. Is Paxton saying right there? I'm going to go with the exact same score packs. I'm going 1-0 Spurs. And you've took the words right out of my mouth. Spurs 1-0 against West Ham. When Conte's not in the country, they do well. And that's a big reason. And I think it'll be one of those dull affairs, as Ed said there. But Spurs will edge it just because of a lack of quality from both sides. Exactly right there. Moss. Very strongly worded one right here. No goal for Conte. So Spuds.
There's a typo there, Moss, I think.
I think he meant this one.
I know.
So, yes. So Spurs won and Spurs 1-1 against the Hammers. Spurs fans' only highlight this week was seeing Arsenal lose. Indeed. 1-0 Spud, says King, right there. Peony also says a 1-1 draw in this one as well. Spudchester United versus Super Spam 1. And then we've also got 1-1. It says Mars. And I've become in love with Declan Rice, and Son needs to start. Amy, welcome to the club. Me and Ed, we love Declan Rice here. And he's not been appreciated as long as, as he should have been. He has been on here on this channel. Not in the chat, always. Yeah, I'm speaking. Guys, hold your hands up. Be honest. I know a lot of you haven't. I'm calling you out now. But now, yeah, he will leave at some point in the summer, I do believe. 100 million, though. And it could be when they get relegated, even for that much as well. 4-0 West Ham, says Red Devil Yannick. West Ham to get Conte sacked. Big up yourself, my brother. Vibes in the place, and you can see he's added that Qatar flag right there as Man United are looking to get Qatari owners in. And yeah, big up yourself, my brother. Vibes, shameless. I respect it. As we move on into our next game, is Chelsea versus Southampton. This is a relegation 6-pointer, Ed.
I think Chelsea are in a bad spot, but they're not quite in that bad of a spot, right?
Yeah, of course.
So the last five meetings does include that freak win for Southampton earlier on this season, where a lot of people are scratching their heads at that. But maybe Chelsea's form before and after that kind of proved it was maybe more about them than it was about Southampton. But Chelsea have won 3 out of the last 5 with 1 draw in there. Chelsea's form, a lot of draws, 3 draws, a loss and a win. And Southampton's there with that 1 win, which I think was the League Cup win against Manchester City a few weeks ago now. And of course, to 10 men last week.
There you go. So absentees for Chelsea. No Broja, no Pulisic, no Kante for this one here, as well as no Edouard Mendy. However, we could see the return of Raheem Sterling, who picked up a knee injury earlier on last week, which caused him to miss the game up against West Ham. But he could return for this one. And Ben Chilwell, he picked up an injury against Borussia Dortmund, but he's most likely going to be back and fit for this one here. So, yeah. So Raheem Sterling returning for Chelsea there, and for Southampton. No, they will not have Alex McCarthy or Valentino Livramento against his parent, well, not his parent club, the club where he graduated as an academy player. And then we've also got no Carl Walker-Peters for this one too. So, Ed, Chelsea versus Southampton. Nathan Jones got sacked. We called it ages ago, as a lot of Southampton fans wanted it a long time ago as well. And he's only been in charge for 3 months. Well, not even that, of playing time, because he lasted 90 days, and 30 of them there was a World Cup break.
World Cup, yeah.
So, yeah. But do you see that potentially galvanising them against Chelsea, or do you think Chelsea might be able to pick up a win here?
Yeah, my one real concern for Chelsea is the goals. I think watch Match of the Day, listen to a football podcast, watch a game, you'll see Chelsea, and everyone will point out they are lacking a focal point. That maybe Joao Felix is going to be that, but it's maybe not the focal point that they needed. 5 goals in the last 10 games for Chelsea is why I'm leaning towards the Chelsea winning this one. Southampton, Nathan Jones was a strange character, and if you haven't read his last but one press conference, in fact, when he said that he could have been He came from a small mining town. He could have stayed in that town, become a miner, married a Welsh girl, but he didn't. He wanted to try and do more with his life, and that's no offense to Welsh girls. Like, that's a strange sentence for a man to say in a press conference. It's a strange one to say, to be fair, in the pub, let alone in front of the world's media. I see Chelsea winning this game. Chelsea at home. Joao Felix did look impressive from what I've seen of him in the West Ham game last week, and of course we talked about it briefly in the West Ham game in the last previous fixture. We talked about that they did get very lucky with that Soucek handball, and maybe that penalty might have been slightly better for them to go into this with a win instead of a draw in their last game in the Premier League. But I am going to go with the Chelsea. I'm going to go Chelsea 1-0. I see this being a low-scoring affair. Southampton were awful against Wolves. I watched the whole game, and barring 5 minutes before and after the goal, which was quite a lucky goal in terms of smashing in a rebound, that they didn't look like there were any great shakes. And I don't just think that was Nathan Jones. I think that is just players at their disposal right now. I think they look doomed, to be honest, at the moment. And we've heard today that Jesse Marsch talks were held. Didn't happen. They're going to be managerless for this game. I'm going 1-0 Chelsea.
1-0 Chelsea. For me, it's a good scoreline. I was thinking of that myself. I'm going to say they're going to score 2 goals. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea. They'll grab another one on the break. I think you hit the nail on the head, really, with the analysis of that game. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Chelsea win right here, just to edge it over the Saints and put them further in the mud, unfortunately. For them, Paxton's gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. I'm risking a lot for Chelsea to score 2 goals. Me too. They need Drogba back. Get Havertz out of there for sure. Big up my brother Ferbs in the building. But that prediction, I told you what you can do in the comments with that. But big up my brother right there. Big up Mr. 200. He says 2-0 Chelsea in this one here. Muddy Rick to score 4, the team to score 4 and south of the border 2 right there. Nathan Jones going to Luton Job Centre. He's gonna go back to Luton Town to make it a 3rd time. Surely he's got to be a 1 club manager now. He keeps thinking. You heard Ashley Williams talk about him, bro. There was a little clip going around. He said basically he feels that Nathan Jones has a bit of an inferiority complex. Because when he first came and he says, I can't teach you guys. The first thing he said, I can't teach you guys how to play football. Like, you're all very good at it already. Like, because he had like Charlie Adam and that.
Is that when he was at Stoke, right?
Yeah, Stoke, yeah. He was like, and then Ashley Williams was talking about it. Says, we just want you to manage us, mate. Like, get us playing football in your way, but yeah, he struggled with that there, and you can kind of see how he's talked about how he compromised for players and stuff. I'm like, you shouldn't do that as a manager. Rule number 1, you don't do that. But any crazy. Tough decision. Southampton needs to improve for next season already. Southampton will fight in this one, and Amy's rolling the dice. Get you score. You remember you got until Saturday, Amy, for this one here. So don't worry. But what else have we got in terms of predictions? I think that we got Moss, who also says 2-0 to Chelsea right there. Havertz and Mudryk to score the goals. We've got 4 more games left to go through, and this one we'll talk about Manchester United, who just drew to Barcelona in an entertaining game. It was for the neutral. United fans, let us know your thoughts in the chat as Ed runs through the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't have Man United's draw tonight in their form, but take that into consideration. Last 5 meetings reads actually quite well for Brendan Rodgers this side, with 3 wins in the last 5. However, Man United have unbeaten in the last 2 with a win and a draw. United, of course, in a very entertaining game tonight, picked up a draw against Barcelona, so the last 5 games would be 3 wins and 2 draws. And for Leicester, another team arresting a little slide that they had with an impressive win last week against Spurs. 3 wins on the bounce with a draw and a loss.
And for Manchester United, from the injuries perspective, it seems like these massive run of games that they've been playing recently starting to catch up on them in a physical aspect as well. So, of course, long-term absentees, Donny van der Beek and Christian Eriksen are out, but they have picked up injuries to Scott McTominay, Anthony Martial with another one again. Anthony picked up an injury as well, but that one seems to be more of an impact one. So it should return for this game here. He did miss the Barcelona one, but maybe it was just too soon after he picked up an injury in his leg from an impact one. So from a Man United perspective, the players, they are losing them, and they seem to be losing more. But of course, we haven't had an update from for the Barcelona game just yet. But I'm sure we'll find out closer to this one on Sunday, which will be in a short space of time. So I'm sure we'll see rotation from United there. And then injury news for Leicester is that they will have no James Justin, of course, no Ryan Bertrand, who's not expected to be back until March. However, they could see a return of the trio in Johnny Evans, former Manchester United man, Yuri Tielemans, who missed the Spurs game with a calf injury, and Boubakary Samare as well, who has been impressive of late for Leicester. So, but the key news is James Maddison's fit, and that seems to be key for Leicester in their form this season. Manchester United versus Leicester. Right, I guess it's my turn to go first. Questions here. You know what? I think if Man United, by the way, you are in a title race, especially now with how close it is. But the reason why you're in a title race is because of how consistent you guys have been of late. You've since the World Cup, you've lost one game, and that was to Arsenal. And that was the last-minute goal from Eddie Nketiah there. So, there's still things that you can take positives from that game as well. Man United, you're on a roll. Rashford scored again today, and he had a big part to play in the own goal for the second one for Man United. If you are going to remain in this sort of race, you need to keep up this good form and momentum as you've shown recently. And I think you can do this at home against Leicester. However, Europa League, the fatigue starts setting in there, starts taking place, and this is the business end of the season, right? Where when the games are coming in thick and fast, it is hard, and in these games you just need to grind out a win like you did against Leeds United. I think you will be able to do it at home. Erik ten Hag's really made that a fortress, so I'm going to go with a 2-1 Manchester United win. How do you see this game going here, bro?
Yeah, I think you're right about the fatigue, and I think a few of the Man United fans, or maybe just Paxed, has put in the chat that there is a little bit of a potential for rotation and fatigue setting in. But I'm with you. I think I see goals in this game. I think both teams are potential for scoring. I think Leicester, the can do at the moment is Maddison looks good. Iheanacho's in one of his good spells. He's in one of those spells that if you get him in your FPL team, all of a sudden he looks like a brilliant buy for 2 or 3 games, and then you get rid of him quite quickly because he'll dry up again. I'm going for 4-2 in this. I'm seeing goals. I'm seeing this being quite an open game, but I think Man United, maybe I'm riding the Rashford train. Maybe that's too much. But I'm going 4-2. I just see goals in this game, and I think that although Leicester's defence has definitely picked up since Fass has come in, and he looks like he's getting more and more up to speed every week, I just see Man United getting goals in this game for some reason. I'm going for 4-2. I'm going a big one on this one.
If you get that one, bro, that's 3 points well deserved for the prediction league. I will say that for sure. But yeah, you might be right because Paxton sees the same as you here. He's gone with a 3-2 Manchester United win at home there. So goals for there as well. Peony says Man United to win 5-0. And that's Leeds. I'm guessing you mean Leicester. Oh, Leicester. There you go. There you go. No worries. Nah, it's all right, Peony. It's all right. We all do it. I've made many errors during this stream alone, let alone on others. We only use one substitute today. Fatigue setting in, and Leicester is on the up. It's interesting, but we will get the job done. I do see that, and I think that's well summarised there from Paxton too. Moss, there you go. Moss says 2-0 Manchester United. Rashford cannot stop scoring. And Bruno, maybe Maguire go back to back against Leicester in the Premier League. Yes, he might do. We will have to wait and see indeed. Red Devil Yannick has gone for a 1-0 Manchester United win. I'm guessing you're going with Rashford to be the scorer. You have been really impressive in that sense. I'll give you credit there. However, Amy, says 2-1 to Leicester. James Maddison is going to be a guy people are targeting for their teams. Already attracting interest from Manchester City and Newcastle, and they're teams that are meant to be interested in him for the summer. So we'll have to wait and see. But captain as well, Captain Matters. We'll move on into the next game as we've got 3 more. Is it 3 more to go through? So we can kind of rattle through these ones, although it is about your mighty Wolves, Ed, in this one here. But give us the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, I think only Wolves and Bournemouth fans will be interested in this game, let's be honest. Last 5 meetings, all in the Premier League. Anything before that, we are talking back in the 90s, before the Championship was even called the Championship. So 3 wins and 2 draws. So Wolves are unbeaten in the Premier League against Bournemouth. Wolves' form, much better reading for me. 3 wins and 2 losses. And of course, that last was with 10 men. And for Bournemouth, a couple of draws, arresting a big slump that they went on a very long run of 4 or 5 losses on the bounce in all competitions, 2 draws and 3 losses in the last 5 games.
Ed, hit us with the updated injury news as far as you're aware in regards to Wolves. Is there any injuries to add on, apart from Lemina's suspension, of course?
Yeah, no, Lemina suspended, Chiquinho is out, and Neto was on the bench last week, so I'd imagine he'll remain on the bench this week.
He scored against Arsenal's under-21s this week in midweek as Wolves beat us 2-0 right there. So, my stepdad certainly sent me the highlights for that one for sure. So Neto could return. No, that'll be a big plus for them. For Bournemouth and for the away side in this one, Marcus Tavernier did return up against Newcastle, and that's massive for them. However, they do have quite an extensive injury list with no Lloyd Kelly, no Zabarani, their new centre-back, who's apparently meant to be a Football Manager sensation, by the way. David Brooks is also out as Julius Stanislas as well. But Marco Senesi could return as well as Lewis Cook. So big injury list right there. Ed, what's your prediction? Wolves, massive win up against Southampton. And you can have a quick word on that, and then what's your prediction for this one here?
Yeah, ridiculous decision to send Lemina off. The lad was just walking towards the referee and got sent off. The referee lost control of that game quite quickly. I think last week there was bookings for both teams that left people. João Gomez, our new pit bull in midfield, is one to look out for. Everyone in Brazil loved him. We've picked him up for next to nothing. He's already becoming a bit of a cult hero and scored a very good goal last week. I'm going 2-0 in this one. I think Bournemouth, along with Southampton, I think might be stranded at the end of February, start of March, and I think this might be Wolves setting their stall out to finish quite comfortably mid-table since J-Lo came in. Going 2-0, and I'm hoping, along with Paxton, that this is a game that Raul Jimenez starts to get some farewell goals coming off the bench and getting a goal, maybe 2-0. I'm going.
There you go. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Wolves win after João Gomez gave you and himself a birthday present for last week as well. But I think, 1-0 Wolves. And do you know what? Go on for Raul Jimenez to score the goal here. He deserves it, man. It's a shame how it's ended, but, if he can have a good end to his, second half of the season for Wolves, it'll be much deserved for the majority of his Wolves career. Paxton has gone for a 2-0 Wolves as well with a Jimenez brace right there. Best championship team in the Prem 0, and then Bourneville 4, says Peony right there. Let's have a look. Let's have a look into the chat here. We got back with you, Ed. 1-0 Wolves. Boom, Raul. Is he going to start or not? Do you think he'll start, bro?
No, he won't start. It'll be Cunha, and then it'll be Costa if we need a focal point, or if not, if we're in the lead, Jimenez will come on for Cunha.
There you go, right there. And we'll move on into the penultimate game. We'll group these We'll group these games as we tend to do towards the end of the show, just to get it moving along. Is it the last game actually?
No, there's 2. I think we got Brighton and Brentford to do.
Apologies to Brighton and Brentford fans and Crystal Palace and Fulham fans. But yeah, mid-table obscurity. Well, kind of for this game in particular. Brentford versus Crystal Palace. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, so we've got 3 draws, a win and a loss in this one. But I think a lot of these, the last 2 meetings there, I think the 60s and the 70s in the League Cup. So only really need to worry about those 3 draws, with one of them being in the Premier League. Brentford's form, of course, that draw that we don't speak about with VAR from last week. 2 draws, 2 wins and a loss. Palace looking like the worst of Newcastle with three draws, but the 2 losses in there instead of the wins for those 2 teams. And for the Brighton game, if I find that one next, we've got Brighton versus Fulham. Last 5 meetings is 2 wins for Fulham and 3 draws. Brighton, of course, on the back of a very impressive run of fixtures, 3 wins, and for Fulham, we've got 2 wins, 2 draws, and just a 1 loss.
Injury news for Brentford in the Brentford versus Crystal Palace. Thankfully, it's only a short list. Only Pontus Jansson who should return for this one here, but Thomas Strakosha is still out as their backup goalkeeper for them there. For Crystal Palace, of course, I'm sorry to say it, Nathan Ferguson is still out, as well as Will Hughes as well. And so no James McArthur on the list. So that's the first this season. But Will Hughes is out. Joachim Anderson could return. It's touch and go whether he'll be fit, as well as Christopher Richards as well. So that's massive right there. They're going to need one of them fit. But Wilfred Zaha, this game comes too soon for him, as well as Joel Ward. For Brighton, it is their injury list. Of course, no Jakob Moder, he's still out. But Levi Colwill, Danny Welbeck, the game comes too soon for them as well. They should be back next week. However, Adam Lallana could be fit to make the bench for the Seagulls. And then finally, for Fulham, who've been in tremendous form once again, Tom Kearney, he's going to be out, and he's going to be out until the end of February. Look like he'll return. However, they did have injuries too. They did pick up injuries to the likes of Willian Mitrovic and Anthony Robertson in midweek. But the good news is they should be all fit and available for this game here. So Brentford versus Crystal Palace. I'll go first with my prediction there. I'm going to go with a Brentford win, of course. They just keep marching on. Whilst they've got Ivan Toney fit, I think they'll continue this unbeaten run, stretch it to 11 games, which is ridiculous for a club of Brentford size, which shows you how well that they have done. I've been calling it since last season. If you're a long-term subscriber to the channel, haven't said it recently, but I think they're pound for pound the best run club in the country, not just in the Premier League, in the whole country, for how well they're achieving. So yeah, Brentford, with the resources that they've got and how well they're doing, massive credit to them. Unfortunate for Palace there, but they're just coming up against a team on a roll, on a steam train. And Ed, what's your prediction for this one and for the Brighton Fulham?
Yeah, so for Brentford Palace, I went 2-0. What did you say for Brentford?
What did I say, actually? I'm going to go with 3-0 Brentford. I'm going for 3-0.
Yeah, I think just quickly on that, I just see Palace without Zaha. We've seen that they are lacking goals, and Brentford at the minute, they're just a train that keeps on going. And for Brighton and Fulham, probably the 2 other surprise packages along with Brentford for this season. I've gone for goals in that game. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I think you're right that the knocks in midweek, I think from what I've read about this game, everyone's available for Fulham that needs to be available. And Brighton score goals, so I've gone for 2-2.
There you go, right there. And for Brighton and Fulham, I'm going to have to back Brighton. They were very unlucky in that rivalry against Crystal Palace, with the decisions and the chances that they missed and everything else falling into that game. I think they'll bounce back strong at home. Matoma needs to score for my FPL. And yeah, it will be a very, very good game, though, I will say. And might be one of them ones on Match of the Day that might be a sleeper. But I'm going to go with a 1-0 Brighton win in this one here. And guys, let's have a look at yours quickly before we wrap up. Paxton's gone for a 2-1 Brentford against Palace. Peeny's gone for a 3-3 draw. David Brentford against Palace. My Palace in a 3-3 there. 2-1. says Moss. So Brentford as well. Tony to score again, and Mbuemo. Zaha is not back, unfortunately. Paxton thinks that, I don't know why I said it in a Scouse accent, but Paxton thinks that Fulham are going to win by 3-1. Brighton to win 2-1, says Moss, against Fulham, with McAllister and Ferguson score for Brighton and Mitrovic for Fulham. Right there. Paxton, the final word on here, says Palace fans will be disappointed with this season, but people could definitely see this coming. It's a very long-term project indeed. So, guys, that wraps up to this weekend's Premier League preview show. Make sure to get your predictions in by 12:30 Saturday, where Arsenal will take on Aston Villa. Thank you to each and every one of you that has tuned in. If you're watching afterwards, I appreciate you as well. And leave a like, leave a comment on this video afterwards. It really does help the channel and get this and push it out there for a lot of people. And just to sort about for the channel, thank you to those who are new subscribers as well. We picked up 4 subscribers yesterday, but we have picked up quite a few recently as well, guys. So I really do appreciate it. And yeah, any final words for you, my bro?
No, just if you're not in the Discord, get in it. The predictions tab's in there, and there is an up-to-date predictions league moment as well, where I think Mr. 200, who normally catches up with these, had a record-breaking 15 points from last week and jumped up 2 or 3 places with his predictions. And you and Moss both got 12, which was second place, which normally is unprecedented. So you're back up to 5th, and Moss is back in the top 3.
Well done, Moss, but massive well done to Mr. 200 on 15 points. You deserve it, man. Yeah, big up yourselves. And guys, you want to be within a chance of winning, get them into the comment section, and be plenty of giveaways for the end of the season as well for you all. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening here in the UK, and I hope that you have a good weekend coming up as well. Take care, people. Love, and we're out.